No clothes allowed. A human and alien starship. Adventurely stood in the docking bay as the outer door sighed open, and a sea. Green light washed over the floor. She breathed slow and steady, because the sign above the threshold said no clothes allowed, and it was not a joke but a rule for sterile travel and safe contact with the living ship. She wore a thin living film. Grown by the ship itself, a second skin that kept her warm and safe, and kept the ship safe from her. No metal, no fabric. No dust from home, only breath and courage and the calm of her heart across the bay. The alien women watched her with quiet eyes. There was Kayla, the tall pilot, whose hair shone like wet stone. There was Mira, the healer with gentle hands that could feel a heartbeat across a room. There was Sarah, the scout who moved like shadow on water. They had invited Lily because the ship had chosen her. And the ship never chose by mistakenly stepped forward, and the film on her skin warmed as if to greet. The air of the vessel, the floor, felt like warm wood, though it was not. Would it pulsed faint under her feet, steady like a drum in the earth? She thought of Rivers back home and her sisters, who told her to take small steps when she was afraid so. She took small steps. Gela spoke in a soft voice and said, "Welcome, human." Mira added a smile that felt like sunlight. Sierra said, "Follow," and moved into a corridor that curved like a seashell. Lily followed and felt the ship listening the way a forest listens when wind moves through old branches. The led her to the heart hall, where the walls flowed with faint luminescence. No sharp angles, no hard seams. The ship breathed, and the air rose and fell in quiet rhythm. Myra placed a hand on the wall and said the ship was born in a cradle moon, and fed by tides of light. It knew hunger once and learned mercy. It remembered storms and held no angrily. Tried to answer with words, but the ship answered. First it reached through the film that covered her and gave her a small pressure on her palm, like the hand of a child, not a voice, but a touch of meaning. Home, then a ripple of feeling. Netsira looked back because the deck under their feet trembled. Kayla lifted her chin and listened. Mira closed her eyes and listened deeper. Lily listened too, and felt a thread of fear under the calm breath of the ship. Something was wrong ahead of them in the dark. Lanes between Starscala showed a map on the wall, a slow bloom of light that drew a path. Through quiet space, another shape crossed their path, a hunter craft built from dead metal with teeth of heat. Its kind cut living ships for parts and wore silence like a cloak. The hunter was nearly felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her breath even. She asked what the ship wanted, and again the answer came as touch through the film. "Stay, stand, be anchor," Ia said. "The ship can move fast, but cannot run for long," Sierra said. "The hunter will smell fear and chase." Kayla said, "We must pass the grave ring, a field of old satellites and bones of stations that circle a dead world. The hunter will follow there, and we must not." Breckly nodded and set her feet on the deck, as if it were a dock plank with storm water under it. She remembered the river flood from her town years ago when she was a child, and how she had braced the door with her shoulder. While wind screamed through the gaps, she had stood until the water fell. She could stand now. Alarms would have screamed on a metal ship, but this ship did not scream. It hummed low and deep, like a lullaby for giants. Lights dimmed until only a soft thread showed their path forward. They entered the grave ring. The ring was a slow wheel of ruins, splinters of towers, broken dishes that once caught songs from far suns, rusted frames that once held farms and families. The ship glided through the wrecks and touched nothing, but the hunter did not glide. It cut forward brutal and quick, and its heat teeth began to openly felt the ship tense like a horse that smells smoke. Mira took her hand and pressed it to the wall. "Share with it," she said, and closed her eyes. "Show it your strong memory." Reached backward into herself for a moment that did not break. She found the day she had held her friend Nora above river water when the bridge rail failed. The river had pulled hard, but Lily had pulled harder. She had not let go. She gave the ship that moment through the warm film hold. She whispered without words, "Deck under." Her feet steadied, the walls brightened a little as if the ship took a deeper breath. Kayla steered toward a forest of antenna spires and narrow ribs of old stations. Sarah slipped ahead and tapped each path with a wand that sang a note only the ship could hear. The path was tight like thread through a needle. Hunter closed the gap. Its heat teeth shone. Pieces of dead station began to glow as its breath washed over them. Mira flinched, then stilled and kept her hand on the wall. "We are." "With you," she said to the ship, without sound. A shard of station swung loose and scraped the hull. The living skin of the ship shivered. Lily felt the shiver run through her as if the ship borrowed her spine for balance. She widened her stance and bent her knees and became a brace. She let the ship share her rhythm and out, in, out steady as a drum. Kayla turned them sideways through a slot between two frames, so narrow Lily thought even air might snag. They slipped through. The hunter tried the same slot and struck the frame with one wing. Metal screamed and spun away into the dark. The hunter roared forward again, angrier than before. Sira said, "We cannot outrun and cannot outfight." Kayla said, "We can outthink." Mira looked to Lily. Lily looked to the ship. Another touch came through the film. "Remember fire." Lily remembered campfire smoke after rain, when wood is damp and stubborn. "You do not blow hard, or you kill the spark. You breathe slow and steady, and give the ember time to grow." She breathed slow now, and gave that patience to the ship. Kayla guided them toward a field of thin plates that caught star wind ages ago. They hung like leaves in a frozen storm. Sarah moved along the bow and brushed each plate with the wand. Tone by tone she built a chord the ship could hum. Myra kept contact and listened for the right pitch. Ship matched the chord, and the plates began to sing back, not loud, but true. The tones moved through the ring like ripples in a pond. Lily felt them pass through her bones. Hunter dove into the chord, unaware. The tones met its dead metal and shook. Its heat teeth flickered. Its aim drifted for a breath. It was blind. Kella took that breath and slid the ship through a curtain of cables. She twisted and set the hull against a brace of old beams that still held their shape. Hold, she told the ship. Lily told it to, without words. Hold. Hunter rushed past and missed them. Momentum carried it into a thorn garden of antenna spires. It struck once, twice, and spun. Pieces of itself scattered and rang like bells in the quiet. It was not dead, but it was hurting. Sira returned to the hall with bright eyes. Kayla did not relax yet. Mira opened her eyes and said, "The ship is ready to move again if we choose." Lily listened and felt another meaning from the ship. Mercythe Hunter could be finished now if they pushed, but the ship asked for mercy. It remembered hunger and the lesson that followed. "We can leave it to drift," and Learnly nodded. Kayla nodded after a breath. Sira gave a small shrug and a grin and said, "Then we go." Mira whispered, "Thank you to the Walthy," slipped from the grave ring into open space, where star wind felt clean and wide. The ship loosened around them like a friend who can finally sit down after a hard day. Lily took her hand from the wall and felt the echo of the ship in her palm like the last thrum of a drum after a song, and Skella led them to a quiet bay inside the ship, where warm air rose like a spring morning. Myra brought a bowl of sweet fruit that grew in clear pods along the inner garden. Sarah set tiny lamps along the floor that glowed like shells on a beach at dusk. There were robes woven by the ship, not clothes as such, but gifts of modesty and honor for guests. Lily accepted and wrapped one around her shoulders, and felt softly ate, and laughed in low voices, and let the fear drain away. No loud victory, only the soft pride that comes when danger passes, and no one was left behind. Mira asked the ship for a mark, and the wall flowed and made a small oval seal. Inside the seal, a simple line showed a hand and another hand. "Anchor and friend Kayla." Said the ship, "Chooses well, Sira." Said the hunter, "Will speak of this day and think twice." Mira said, "Our home remembers you now." Lily looked at the seal and let her breath fall easy. She was human and small in a great dark sea, yet she had stood, and the ship had stood with her, and the alien women had held the line beside her as sisters do in that moment. She felt a thread tie her to them, to the ship, and to the quiet that follows a storm. Stars drifted past like slow snow. The living hull hummed a gentle chord, and Lily rested in the warmth of a strange home that had learned her. Journey came, she would stand again, and the ship would remember the anchor she had been, and somewhere in the dark, a wounded hunter would remember mercy and choose a different path.